The Money. I'm Mark Manelli, your host, and this is
Stephen Balance.
And we're glad you're here with us today. Last week we talked about all the neat stuff that was going on, and this week we're going to talk about a few other things. First, we have some announcements. Well, they might not be first. And second, we have questions from our viewers and listeners, and we're going to deal with those.
Yeah.
But I also wanted to give you a little bit of an update today. We have talked about Missions Local several times, and what that is and how the idea is to reach out to a local family in your neighborhood or somewhere close to actually train people to be able to help and care for others, to help them raise them up out of the addiction to welfare, out of the muck and mire of poverty, and help them to become everything that the Lord would want them to be in realizing their fullness in Christ is the best way to say it. Our first Missions Local project, I hate calling it that because we're talking about people here.
Yeah, they're not numbers.
Right. But I had a meeting with the head of the household recently, and it was just a great meeting. The gentleman was like, you're talking about some hard things, Mark, from a biblical perspective, and you're laying some things down that really are challenging me, and I want to share some things that I think are called stumbling blocks for me. And he shared just some inner secrets about fears and stuff that are holding him back. And then we talked about biblical applications and how God can help overcome. It was just so good. And this person has such a desire to become a conduit of blessings to others, to serve others and to care, but he's so mired down, his whole family is mired down in poverty that it won't work. I am excited about this, and I hope you are too, because when people realize what God has in store for them, the great works He created for them to walk in, it gets exciting. I get excited about it, and hopefully you do too.
I, of course, was not invited to this meeting, but I have spoken to the head of the household as well, and I think, again, not to use the word project, but I think the entire thought process behind it, the heart, is doing us a world of good as well as doing the head of the household a world of good, and it really puts into perspective what God is able to do.
Amen. And the impact of this, the ripple effects could be incredible, not only in their lives, but when you help somebody, whether it's financially, physically, emotionally, and of course spiritually, what happens is ripple effects that go on forever and ever. It's kind of like Jesus and feeding the 5,000. A loaf of bread turns into thousands of loaf of bread, and it's just one fish and one bread equals thousands fed. How does that math work out? Well, it's miraculous. Well, the same thing is true with when you bless others. What happens? First, think of the simpleness, simple, direct. Immediately, they're praying for you. How cool is that? Yeah. Because you're helping them. They're thanking God for you. You're being brought before the Lord. You're being blessed there. They're praying for others. You're praying. The prayers just ripple through everything. There's so many multiple blessings that occur from it. It's just incredible. So the Missions Local thing, we're advancing. We're moving forward, and we'll talk a little bit more about that in a little while.
Real quick to piggyback on that, like Mark said at the very beginning, this is family number one. Like this is not where we begin and end and we only help the one people so we have that story. Like this is the beginning of what our plans are.
Yeah.
We plan to keep this going and to help as many families as possible.
Exactly. And to develop a process to help others learn how to do the same thing, so that we can train Mission Locals people wherever they may be in the state, in the country, around the world. So it's a launch pad. Where can it go? I don't know. God's big. I'm not. Yeah. I just have to surrender to that. Maybe it stays with just Missions Locals St. Louis, or maybe it goes Missions Locals to 72,000 different cities around the world. We'll see. The whole goal, though, is to honor God by helping others realize the love, the joy, the peace, the desire for God for them to be fulfilled in this lifetime. And with that said, we're going to move on to the other end of the spectrum. Missions Local and the BRI initiative, the Biblical Responsible Investing Initiative that we have, is that are almost from a financial point of view from two separate realms.
Yeah.
One's from those who are living in scarcity, and the other is those who have so much that they're living in abundance that they can invest. They have more than their needs, and they're giving well, and they can invest in it. And we want to help people understand what investing with biblical integrity is. And to that end, we've had a lot of questions come from our viewers and listeners over the years from the radio shows and stuff. And so we thought we'd address a couple of these questions today. So here we go.
Do I get interview style?
Yeah, let's do it interview.
Did you peek at the questions?
I did.
Oh.
I just saw them
right.
right before we came on live.
So, one of the most popular questions, I would say, maybe the number one question that that I would imagine we get asked is, as far as biblical responsible investing, you don't make as much money with that, right? Because you don't get to invest in all the fun stuff,
Oh,
right? Right?
No, that's not right. That's not right on so many levels. Let's talk about it. First of all, if that was true, my suggestion to anybody would be don't invest with biblical principles. Don't invest at all. Because if the whole idea of investing is to grow your money.
Yeah.
And whatever reason you're growing that for, whether it's to send your kids to college or whether it's to retire or whether it's to send a donation of more than money so we can grow the missions local, whatever it is, the only reason for investing is to grow it. Now, some people might argue with that and say, well, you could invest without but that's like saying, I want to drink something that doesn't cure my thirst, or I want to, so if it was true that you could not make money, you can't do well investing with biblical integrity, then you probably shouldn't even be investing. Here's the key. Historically, that's not true. There are all sorts of reports and all sorts of people have looked into this and showed differently. For 3 years running, one Christian fund, which doesn't hold themselves out as a Christian fund, but if you dig into it, it's all ran on biblical principles and screened for biblical principles. That fund was the #1 small cap fund for 3 years running. So to say that you can't make money, the bottom line is it really comes down to how you manage those investments. It always comes down to the manager. For example, if there was only 2 stocks in the world you can invest in, and you said you went to 10 different financial money managers, portfolio managers, and say, okay, these are the only 2 stocks I can invest in, manage them. You'd have one guy who did stellar, just outperformed everything. You'd have another guy who just lost money every year. And then there'd probably be, the rest would be kind of right in the middle of the bell curve. That's normal. That's typical. See, it's not the stocks. It's the person who deploys them win, employs them win, goes to cash win, how they manage risk, all these different kind of things. So, and there are a lot of great money managers out there who can do biblical responsible investing for you. So, and there's some that just don't do well too. Guess what? 50% of all investments underperform the average. Duh! Yeah.
So, with what you were just saying, it almost sounds like a very famous Bible story, something about talents.
Well, that's not a direct link, but
no.
Yeah. So, but the bottom line is, you don't have to give up your returns or your biblical values to grow your money as a steward of God's money.
So, see if I can stump you with question number 2.
Okay.
All right. So, say you're not directly giving money to, I shouldn't name any things, but say you're not directly giving money to that company.
Okay.
You're buying a stock, maybe secondhand. Someone gifted it to you. That's okay because you're not directly giving them money, right? So you're not really participating in that.
Well, a gift is different, and a gift is different than buying a stock. The one argument I've heard over the years, primarily from financial professionals, by the way, which is hilarious, is that, Mark, the whole idea that you're funding the enemy if you buy a stock in the market is just total junk, because you're not buying it from that company, so the money's not going to that company. You're just buying it from another investor. Well, you know, what they're saying is true as far as how you're purchasing it. The stock market is an auction. You're out there buying it from one another, okay? But that doesn't mean that you're not supporting that company. If you and thousands of other people buy a company and that company's stock rises in price, they're able to borrow more, they're able to issue more stock at a higher value, they're able to take that money and turn around and do more evil with it if they're an evil company. So effectively, when you buy a company, you are voting for that company in one sense. You are endorsing that company. It even goes further than that. You are becoming an owner of that company. If that company does something, has a cure for cancer, you are an owner of a company that just helped cure cancer. If that company somehow causes cancer, you are now an owner of a company and participating in the company that is causing cancer. So effectively, you are an owner. A stock, when you say stock, that's short for stock certificate, which means it's a certificate that shows ownership in a company. You are participating in that company. You're participating in ownership. You're participating possibly in dividends. You're participating in profits through those dividends, and you're participating from the growth of the stock. So you are participating with that company. If you are aligning yourself through ownership with a company that is doing things that cause people to stumble on their way to Christ or in their relationship with Christ, that harm others, then you are participating in all those activities. You may be 1/300,000,000th of an owner in a company, but an owner all the same. So the idea of who the money goes to directly is an issue, but not the only issue. Ownership and endorsement are even bigger issues. You see, money is the oxygen of business. When you help companies to be profitable by running up their stock, by endorsing that company, by bringing awareness to that company, you are bringing oxygen to that company, and that oxygen helps them grow. If, on the other hand, everybody who claims to be a believer would only invest in companies that at the very least did not compromise Christian values, biblical morals, that only acted in love, which means they did not purposely harm others for gain, they purposely did not cause people to stumble with their moral values, either through the way they advertise or the products they make or the services they have, or how the money they give to charity. If we moved all our money from those companies and only put it with companies at the very least that were neutral, think of how we could move the oxygen. We could starve those companies of the blood, the money, the oxygen that they need to grow and affect our society. And think about those companies that were neutral at best and even in alignment with biblical principles, how they could grow and actually affect society with morals and values and love and compassion.
So,
did I answer that question?
I think so, yeah. Well, so that kind of gives me a different thought, maybe a thought from the other side of the spectrum. Goes into our next question.
Okay.
So you just spoke about all the investing, if we were to invest in all these big companies. What if I don't have money to invest? Are there other ways for me to honor God with my finances other than investing?
That's an excellent question. And there's a whole book on that. It's called the Bible. And it talks about stewardship financial stewardship more than it does heaven or hell or even salvation, which is really interesting. God knows the impact of money and possessions in our life. He knows how it takes our brain space and way too often too much of our heart space. And because of that, he gives us a lot of guidelines and ideas. He warns us about debt, how it controls us and enslaves us. He warns us about greed and pride and power and how that can destroy us. He warns us about all these things. He shows us there are cures for these things, giving and loving. And of course, there are so many things you can do with your money. For example, any good father or mother will want to take care of their family. God says this is a good thing to care for your family.
Okay.
There's all sorts of guidelines. There's thousands of books written about honoring God with your money. Randy Alcorn's one of my favorite authors on that. He has a book, Money, Possessions, and Eternity. It's about that thick. Most people won't ever read it, but it's good. He's got one boiled down from that that's called God and Money. Okay. And it's about that thick. He's even got really thin ones, such as the Treasure Principle, okay, and others. He's got a lot of books out there on there. Of course, Ron Blue, Larry Burkett, Art Alley has a stewardship series that you can get from the Timothy. There's just so much out there. And if you don't know where to look, give me a call. I'll get you in touch with a good book. Even send you a book. We give the books out to our clients and people who have a desire to honor God. So if you'd like a good book on honoring God with your money, call us, email us, text us, Facebook us, whatever it takes, and of course we're going to need the information so we can get the book out to you. But we'd be honored to send you a book. Yeah. Or two.
Don't get greedy.
Yeah. Just don't get greedy. Exactly.
All right. So that's a little bit of what you can do with your money if you don't have enough money to invest. But what about something that's say a little closer to home? Say the places that you just shop.
Yeah.
The ones that are, hey, I need a loaf of bread, I'll go here. You've got a couple alternatives. Is there like a list maybe of alternative places to shop, or are you only limited to what's in your hometown? I mean,
that's a good question, because if it's a candle burning on each end, biblical responsible investing is the end where you have extra money. You're talking about utilizing your money on the spending side of it.
Yeah.
And a lot of people would call that boycotting. Some people like to boycott companies that are in direct opposition to biblical values. For example, a lot of people boycotted Target when they went down the whole bathroom thing.
Yeah.
Some people have boycotted different companies along the way, and like Starbucks. I heard there was a lot of Christians who won't go to Starbucks because they've said some things against Christians. They actually said they didn't want Christians to be invested in them if they didn't like the returns more than what they were doing with their money. So there's people who do these things, and that's good in many ways. I don't have a problem with that. Just like biblical responsible investing, it's a good thing. So how do you do that? Somebody says, well, I shopped at Target for so long, I don't know where else to go. Which companies are not in contradiction to my beliefs? Which companies aren't utilizing the profits from my spending there to encourage immoral lifestyles or anti-biblical actions? Well, that's a good question. There are a lot of sites out there, but I'll tell you what is great is we are compiling a list in different categories of consumer goods and restaurants and things like that show companies that are in alignment with your faith. And that'll be up eventually on our website, which is a good segue, I would think, to, every now and then somebody has a need, right? We all have needs. Yeah. More Than Money is no different. Don't click us off. The thing is, we need to get our website up, and we've been having difficulties getting it up. We need help. If you know somebody who could donate some time to helping us get the More Than Money website finalized, up and running, so we can have more impact, we would appreciate you referring that person to us immediately. We need help now because there's a lot of neat stuff coming up, and we need to be able to communicate and get our social media coordinated and everything working. Yeah. So we need help with our website. Can you do that? Are you a website type of guy? Are you an internet type of woman? Do you have these skills? And if not, do you know somebody who might? Send them to us, because we need volunteers to step up and help us quickly.
And one of the things I want to point out is just about everything that we talk about, concerning More Than Money, we're always more than happy to have volunteers. Missions local. We would love for you guys to come alongside us and vice versa, and for all of us to go out into our cities and impact the world. We want to come alongside churches and vice versa, so that we can go out and actually lift people up and get them out of that dangerous circle that they put themselves in, or they just happen to be in. Same thing with, like Mark just mentioned, the website. The reason that we want to do that is to, I don't know, get ourselves going and actually impacting people. And the more time or effort or even just prayer that you donate to us, the more we're able to go out there and impact the world.
And tell your friends about this. Tell them to tune in on Wednesdays at 1 o'clock to join us, to send their questions and to do all these wonderful things. Again, we need help with this broadcast. We need help technically. You know, right now we're using an iPhone and we're staying in here. We haven't got Skype calling integrated in yet. We want to do interviews. We need help.
Yeah.
I've been told that all my life, actually. But with that said, we're running out of time. So, you know, financially, of course, we always need help. There's just a couple of supporters of More Than Money Ministry, which is a 501c3. And we need to expand that so we can impact more lives for the kingdom of God. And we'd love you to partner with us on that. So get in contact with us. And God bless you all. Thanks for tuning in. Again, I'm Mark Manell. This is Stephen Balance. And we thank you for your time today. God bless.
All right. You guys have a good week.